page. Well, if you guys are just tuning in, good evening. Good evening. Just getting started here in about another 3 minutes. Thank you very much for tuning in. Appreciate the support. It is awesome. You guys are all awesome. We are going to get rolling here in just a minute.
Brandon.
Hey, Vinny, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. I'm going to get started here in just a second here.
No problem.
Just got to double check my audios. Thank you so much for tuning in and giving me a couple minutes of your time. I appreciate it.
No problem. You do this every week?
I actually do. I actually do it twice a week.
Nice.
I do. It's been really nice. I've had Dario on and I've had Tim on. So it kind of helps out with, being a solo podcast, helps breaking it up a little bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So just 1 second here. I'm just getting all the audio stuff pulled up. You're starting a new job. You're not leaving Bally, are you?
No.
Okay.
This is for the broadcast gig. That's just part-time for me. I wish it was full-time.
Okay.
Yeah. So I actually have to have I'm just a regular old Joe like everybody else, man. Yeah, I'm a inside sales rep for this orthodontics company. I just took this new job. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna get rolling here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another jam-packed episode of the Brew City Lounge. I am your host, Brandon. You can go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Wisco_Brandon. Extremely happy to have you guys tuning in, whether you're on the live stream or checking out the show, wherever you get your podcasts. It's an absolute honor to be here to talk our favorite teams, Bucks and the Brewers. Hope everyone out there is doing good. Lots to break down. Huge Bucks game last night. I want to dive into, kind of get your thoughts on the end of the overtime with the referees, where the Bucks are headed come playoffs. And most importantly, extremely happy to announce former Brewer and professional baseball player, also a part of Bally Sports Wisconsin, Vinny Rottino, joins me to talk Brewers. You can find him at Vinny Rottino. Can also find him on Bally Sport Wisconsin on the pre and post game show. Vinny, thank you for taking the time to join me. How you doing, sir?
Absolutely. No, thanks for having me. Appreciate the invite anytime.
It's an absolute honor. I got a chance to meet Vinny down at AmFam Field. I'm getting so much better with the AmFam Field. It always used to come out Miller Park. So I just got to give myself a little credit there. Got a chance to chit chat with Vinny down at AmFam Field. If you get a chance, stop by. I'm sure he'd love to see you and say hi. He's on the pre and post game show on Bally Sports. Vinny, I'm going to ask you right off the bat. First off, thank you so much for coming on. Second off, what surprises do you have thus far for the Brewers? Is there anything that kind of sticks out right away when you watch this team? And they had a really good game last night, a 3-1 victory out in San Diego. down on their, I guess you could call their B or C squad. Half their team's out. Is there any surprises so far this season for you?
There is, and you know what? It's going to be something that's kind of unexpected, probably for everybody. So the surprise for me is it's kind of not a surprise, right? So we knew the starting pitching would be good. I don't think we knew it would be this good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you got, I think we were all just wondering whether or not Corbin Burns was going to repeat what he did last year, and then he has so far. I mean, obviously tonight he's facing a little bit of a better lineup than maybe the Cubs were when they were swinging the bats poorly last series. But yeah, I don't know. I think that is a surprise to me because they have so many guys out. They have not swung the bats great. And yet they're 2 games over 500. They beat a really good Padres team last night. I can't really see, I don't see that this is after watching them now for 2.5 weeks, kind of locked into every pitch. I don't see that this is some sort of anomaly or out of the ordinary for how they're getting it done on the mound. It's not like they're giving up a ton of hard contact.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like they're doing anything different that they can't sustain. I see that this is just kind of who they are, and it's exciting to know that this could be at full strength when all their guys are back. I'm just kind of excited to see where how good this team could get.
And I'm completely with you because I'm a homer. There's no doubt about it. Everybody that tunes into the show or watches on YouTube, they know who I am, and I don't have any reason to hide that. I love my team.
Yeah, me too.
And looking into the year, you're going into the year, and I talked to a couple beat writers out in Chicago, a couple out in St. Louis, and I kind of got a feel for where they were headed. Obviously, St. Louis makes the splash for Nolan Arenado, and the Cubs are kind of, in between a bunch of contracts and a bunch of young talent. And looking around to the division, I looked at it as the Brewers as being the strong team. They had the offensive talent. In my opinion, you were going to have a better Yelich. Hopefully he bounces back. Colton Juan hitting at Miller Park. Lorenzo Cain a whole year healthy. The depth is obviously there. The bullpen is arguably at the back end, probably the best in the major leagues. And then defensively, you got so many more upgrades with, Colton Juan and Jackie Bradley Jr. alone bring Gold Gloves. So I looked at as the Brewers, and taking the homer out of it, I looked at them as the favorites. Now I know we're only 16, 17 games into the season. How do you think the Brewers look across the division?
The division, I really like their chances. I kind of agree with that assessment. I don't see the Cubs really contending. I don't know why Pacoda has them ranked so high. Maybe because their offense is so formidable, and maybe because some of their arms have performed well. But I don't see sustainability from their pitching staff, to be quite honest. And some of their bats are, I mean, I actually see I see their bats kind of coming alive at some point. They're going to rattle off some wins, but I don't see much of a threat from the Cubs. The Cardinals are the team for me that probably are going to end up, making a real strong push. I think, especially if McCullers can get healthy. Flaherty is a guy that is going to contend for the Cy Young. I think year in, year out. I know he's not off to the best start. I know he had a good start yesterday, but the Reds are a little bit of a surprise for me. I know they have DJ there, the pitching coach the Brewers used to have. So that maybe they're kind of starting to trust him and seeing what, kind of maybe using the analytics a little bit more. I'm not sure exactly. I haven't watched one single game from them. But their lineup is good. And they have that ballpark that's just a bandbox. So, yeah, I mean, maybe the Reds are the team that the Brewers are going to have to contend with. I know it's a small sample, and the Reds are in first place, but I see the Brewers just, especially coming back to full strength. I see 90 wins. I see 90 wins, and I see that as kind of the floor. But maybe that's just the homer in me.
Interesting.
Yeah. Just because of They're a team that is extremely. So I played on a ton of teams, and I promised myself I wouldn't be that guy that's the broadcast that brings up everything about himself when he played, because it doesn't really relate.
Oh, but you got. I mean, you know more than the average Joe. I mean, we want to hear it. We want to hear it.
Yeah,
Vinny, tell us.
sure. Well, the thing that I was kind of related to is the fact that that I played on a bunch of teams, a lot of it in the minor leagues. And the teams that were really, really good at the end of the year were the teams that had 25 guys. And I know there's a 26-man roster now, but 25 guys that were very, very dedicated to winning. Okay. Every single day. And that sounds kind of basic and cliche, but believe me, you take that for granted, especially in baseball. You play every single day. And if there's one or two guys that aren't in it for the team and kind of in it for themselves, believe me, it will wear on a clubhouse. It'll wear on a team. So when you have guys like I play with Lorenzo Cain, I know what he's all about. The guy doesn't want to come out of the lineup with pulled quads because he wants to help the team win that bad. It's not about himself. Same thing with Colton Wong. Same thing. And then to the nth degree, Jackie Bradley Jr., I heard he's like that. Christian Yelich. You have, and then you watch Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff compete, and how much it's not about them, right? I mean, it's a special, I think this is a special group of people, okay, that really want to win for each other. And we're only 2.5 weeks in, you get some momentum of the season where everyone's kind of playing well together. They're going to gel. Get to a point where it's like, okay, we're down 3-0 in the fourth. We know we are going to come back and win. And that's a good feeling. And you get that feeling by having a group of guys like that. So that's what I'm excited about with this team. And the fact that I don't see that on any other team in this division. And if there is, I don't see, there's another team like that, like let's say the Pirates or something. I don't see as much talent, right? I don't know if the Pirates are like that or not, but I just don't. I don't see as much. I see the Brewers have. I see the Brewers have the market for the division on talent and on that winning piece, the intangible piece. So I definitely see them winning the division.
And I agree with everything that you're saying. I mean, every piece that you just named off, and it kind of leads into my next question for you is, going into spring training, you obviously had Lorenzo Cain missed all of most of all last year, and all of last year, I mean 60 games. And you get, word that, the Brewers are signing Jackie Bradley Jr. And you see a lot of Brewers fans, and I call it the dark web because that's what Twitter and Facebook are. And, they're they know everything. So then you get a lot of people saying, why do we need, Jackie Bradley Jr.? We need pitching. We need this. And you look at Tyrone Taylor, then you look at Billy McKinney, and I mean, my goodness, I tip my hat to David Stearns and Craig Counsell, because when you got 36-year-old Lorenzo Cain, he's gonna get banged up the way he plays. Like you said, he wants to play all the time, and he goes 100% every time he's out there. These guys that they picked up, and you put quotation around guys because that's what initially you saw: Tyrone Taylor, Billy McKinney, just guys, and then Jackie Bradley Jr. I mean, David Stearns went out, he knew what he was getting with each one of these guys. And he knew that there was going to be a time that Lorenzo Cain might miss a game. Christian Yelich's back will flare up, and he's plugging guys in. I mean, you lose Lorenzo Cain and you're not skipping a beat with Jackie Bradley Jr. I mean, David Stearns went out, and the depth on this team, and I know Tim Dillard broke it down, and I said, describe the Brewers in one word, and he said depth. And I mean, it feels like at every position, obviously they traded Orlando Arcia that, dips into that infield depth a little bit, but I mean, what are your thoughts on like David Stearns' offseason? Because it seems like it was quiet, but then you look at it and you're like, wow, like they aren't skipping a beat no matter who's in there.
Yeah, Bill Schroeder before the game yesterday or 2 days ago, talking about this exact same thing, and specifically he was talking about Jackie Bradley Jr., but he said immediately just said the phrase "pretty shrewd move by David Stearns" right there. And it's true. It is definitely true. I mean, it's shrewd as can be, because how smart, the foresight. Yeah, no casual fan or even a more dedicated fan really sees the Jackie Bradley signing as like a a need. I mean, there was a definite hole at third base everybody saw, and he had the foresight to say, hey, wait a minute, Travis Shaw is no slouch. Let's give him another opportunity. I don't think anybody could foresee that he was going to bounce back to 2017, 2018 type performance, which I do believe is in there this year because some of the adjustments that he and Andy Haynes made in spring training. But I think the depth of the team is something that's really, really encouraging. That and that's the other thing, because they're a group of winning guys that just want to win. No one was really even like been out of shape about that move, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone just kind of saw it as, okay, we got another winning piece here.
Yeah.
Even though there's 4 outfielders for 3 spots, really 3 outfielders for 2 spots is really how you could look at that. Absolutely. Going into spring training. So, but yeah, and look at that. And 2 guys are down, and now really it's probably a platoon situation for a little while between Taylor and McKinney, and then the other 2. And that's the thing that I don't think people really understand is how much value Jackie Bradley Jr. brings to a team in a number of ways, but mainly, I mean, he'll hit and he'll do some damage and he'll be a valuable offensive player. But on the defensive side of the ball and on the bases, he impacts a game. And then in the clubhouse, he impacts a team. So it's fun to watch him play center field, right? I mean, I don't even think you could probably grade him as a plus runner from home to first. I think it takes him a little while to get going. But how smooth is he in the jumps and the routes that he gets and the instincts out there in his hands? He's really, really fun to watch out there. And so my point in saying that signing, I think everyone kind of understood, like, Lorenzo Cain didn't even play last year. He's 35. He's going to probably miss some time. Last year, the Brewers had to didn't they plug in Ben Gamel and Avisel Garcia in center field? And neither of those guys, that's out of position for them. So a fly ball, a flare that drops in because of a bad route by one of those 2 guys, that drops in, and now it's first and second instead of with 1 out, instead of 2 outs with a runner on first. People don't understand what that does to the psyche of a pitcher. That's his ERA out there.
Yeah,
right?
No kidding.
and yeah, I mean, in a bad route, a bad jump on a ball that should get caught it really messes with guys, and it really affects how they make pitches, how they execute pitches. There's more stressful pitches with runners in scoring position. On the flip side of that, Jackie Bradley Jr. makes an unbelievable play in the gap, and instead of second and third, nobody out because of a double that was just hit, it's now runner on first, 1 out because Jackie Bradley Jr. just made an unbelievable play. Mm-hmm. So the psychological part of that is, and Craig Counsell talked about this in press conference, but I've always said this, it's the impact defense can have on your pitching staff and on your team can't really be measured because of those scenarios, right? The stress that a pitcher has to pitch through traffic or pitch through, situations with runners in scoring position where maybe it shouldn't be that situation, right? If a defensive play had been made the play before. So that's how it's impacting the game. And that's how I think we're going to continue to see that this year from Bradley. And then clearly if Cain's in the lineup too, and when he's healthy, he does the same thing. So huge signing.
And I mean, you see it too with a lot of, and this again, talking to Vinny Rottino here on the Brew City Lounge, talking about the Brewers and talking about the Boston Red Sox. And you talk about those 2 teams, and there's a huge difference there. You talk about, that's obviously where Jackie Bradley Jr. came, and they, Boston had their run of not winning titles for, I don't know, however long it was, 100 years, whatever it was. And then that winning culture, turned while mm-hmm. Jackie Bradley was there, and he won a couple championships. And I love that aspect of him coming to the team. I absolutely agree with you. You plug him mm-hmm. at center field, he is arguably one of the best defensive center fielders, mm-hmm. maybe defensive players in all of baseball. But what I loved about that signing, along with Lorenzo Cain, you're bringing in a cultural change in Milwaukee, something that we've seen. You were a part of it back in, 12, 13 years ago, mm-hmm. when the Brewers got back into the playoffs in 2008. But we kind of went away with that for a while. And now we're back into it's the third, 3 straight years into the playoffs, a winning cultural when you add in guys like Jackie Bradley Jr., obviously you added Lorenzo Cain a few years ago, but all that does is help that locker room. It helps guys like Christian Yelich look at Jackie Bradley Jr. And I'm not saying that Christian Yelich looks up to Jackie Bradley Jr., but from a leadership aspect, he might. And that's what I like about Jackie Bradley Jr. coming in, him and Lorenzo Cain kind of taking over, maybe not taking over the locker room. That's maybe Yelich's locker room, but hey, we're in a rough spot in, the end of July. Jackie, what are some of the things that we can do as a team? So bringing him in on the field and off the field is something I really thought was valuable.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head right there. And look, leaders, there's a team full of leaders right there. And when you get that again, that is taken for granted. I don't think people really understand what kind of team culture there is. And I don't see a guy that's in it for himself. Mm-hmm. And I played with a lot of these guys. I scouted a lot of these guys. So I had to do my homework on these guys. And I don't see one single guy in that clubhouse that's the guy, that selfish player that's looking out for his contract next year. I see a bunch of guys that just want to win a World Series. Now, whether or not they whether or not they do it, I don't know. They certainly have the starting pitching to do it. I'll say that. So I'm just really excited and I'm hopeful, and I'm what's the word? I'm excited about when this team is full strength, how good they can really be. I think they can rattle off a ton of wins in a row. And when you do that, like, May, June, whatever, that's when you can kind of build a lead, and there's a ton of momentum going into the playoffs. So that's what I'm excited about.
Speaking of starting pitching, and I made this comment both to Dario and Tim on previous shows, and I said, hey, if I got to eat crow, I'll have to eat crow. I've done it before. I'll do it again. And I said it, and I said, you know what? I said, I've been a Brewer fan my whole life. I've, the heydays of Ben Sheets. You've been on some really good Brewers teams, and so you've seen it as well. And I told him, I said, I know we're only a couple games into the season, but Corbin Burns looking like he was again during the COVID year, the 60 games season last year, seeing what I'm seeing out of him so far, looking at Brandon Woodruff as consistent as he always is. And then you got Freddie Peralta, who seems to be not so much Freddie fastball anymore as he is strikeout Freddie. And then you look at Adrian Hauser, and then I'm like, okay, if Brett Anderson is your fifth starter, I mean, to me, and it's super early, and again, I'll eat it if I have to, but this is the best Brewer starting rotation that I can remember. And I'm much young. I mean, I'm younger than you, but I mean, to me, this is the best starting rotation that I can remember.
Yeah, so you're out on the Jeff D'Amico rotation with I can't even name it. The other guy.
I like Kyle Loesch, and no disrespect to any of them. I mean, there's no disrespect to them, but yeah, and these are homegrown guys. That's the best part about it. We didn't go out and pay Brandon Woodruff. Well, we didn't pay him yet, but we didn't go out in free agency and give him, $150 million. Like these guys, we, drafted and grew into the farm system, and now they're flourishing in the majors. And I don't know. I mean, it's way too early, but it just feels like it's a dominant era for the Brewers as far as starting pitching goes.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I can't recall a starting staff besides maybe the Dodgers right now that could be better. But who knows? I mean, if Freddie continues to develop, and Adrian Hauser is an interesting one. He's the wild card in this for me. I think you're going to get what you're going to get from Brandon Woodruff. I think exactly who he is. I don't think we know how good Corbin Burns actually is.
I have a huge disclaimer right now. I have a huge man crush on him. I just love, he is just something else, man. Goodness, he's so good.
Fun to watch. He continues to improve the dominance of the stuff. Look, at the end of the day, Brandon Woodruff's slider isn't that. If you were going to grade that slider in a vacuum, you would just kind of maybe put an average grade on it. It doesn't have that sharp, late, tight bite that when you watch Brandon Woodruff's slider compared to Joe Musgrove's slider last night,
yeah,
you could see a discrepancy in terms of the bite to it, right? He doesn't get a ton of swing and miss and chase out of the zone with it, but his fastball is so good, and the fact that he has so much, he has really good instincts to pitch and feel to pitch and feel for the ball, and his fastball is so powerful that his slider does end up becoming effective in within at bats, right? But the counter is true for Burns. He has a wipeout slider. He just has that ability to spin the baseball. Now he's learning all of a sudden he's learning a changeup. He's got that cutter and two-seamer working where he can now make a crisscross on the plate at 97 miles an hour. Good luck, right?
No kidding.
And he's learning how to command it. So I think Woodruff is a top of the rotation guy, worth a lot of money, right, on the free agent market someday. That's the type of guy he is. I think he's shown that he's consistent. That start last night was probably had to be the best performance I've seen from him. Why? Because he had 30 pitches in the first inning, and Jerks and Profar had no shot to do any kind of damage against him. And he had a great at bat. He fouled off 10. He had a 10 pitch at bat. And he walked them, turned into a 30-pitch inning after losing the series to the Pirates. Musgrove just wiped out the first three batters in the Brewers order. There had to be a ton of momentum on the other side of the field in the Padres dugout. Had to be. I guarantee you, the Brewers dugout was probably feeling like, we're going to be back to 500 after tonight, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and
it all started with Jerks and Profar's first at-bat, 10-pitch at-bat, where he had no chance to get a hit. Just had a good at-bat and missed that last 3-2 pitch, but turned into a 30-pitch inning. He comes back and throws 6 clean innings and gives the Brewers a chance to hit a couple of mistakes by Musgrove out of the ballpark, and now all of a sudden they win that game. That was, we may be looking back in a month, and I hope this is the case. I know this is the day after that game, but we may be looking back in a month and say that was from the second inning to the 7th of that game one in San Diego was the biggest part of the season so far.
And I don't think you're wrong about that either, especially with, again, no disrespect to the lineup last night, but you're missing a good portion of your starters, positional players.
Yeah. So he kept it close for him. A couple of home runs, which, tip your cap to Urias and McKinney hitting homers off of Joe Musgrove. That's pretty, that guy's wipeouts. nasty stuff. But, it was a big win last night. Now think about players win that game, and then all of a sudden they're getting, they're taking their cleats off, ready to jump in the showers. They get ready for tomorrow, and they're thinking to themselves, we got Burns going tomorrow. Right? So now they're feeling pretty good. It'll be a big game. It'll be a big game tonight. Having Burns go against Paddock. I've always liked Paddock, but
Paddock I like him too. I saw your breakdown on him on Twitter. If you don't follow Vinny on Twitter, I highly recommend it, at Vinny Rottino. He is the man. He breaks it all down. I got a couple more questions. I'm going to let you go. I have one kind of negative question I want to ask you. Yeah. And then we'll get to a fun question. And I asked this, and this is just out of a concern. I don't think that they're bad. I don't think that they're going to be the downfall on the team, or maybe the straw that breaks the camel's back. The bullpen to me seems a little shaky. And I know it's early, Suter giving up. He's got a 3.48 ERA. Rasmussen is up over 11. Yard leads over 7. Even Devin Williams he's over 7 ERA. And I don't know. And I know it's early, and Williams didn't do much in the spring, so I'm really not too worried about him. I'm worried about that middle inning reliever. We know Craig doesn't really like to let the starters go more than 6 or 7. Is that a concern to you? Is that something you look at like, man, they just gotta find it, and once they find it, they're going to be okay? Because I have high hopes for Drew Rasmussen. I love that guy. Hard thrower, consistently in the upper 90s. Suter's a fun guy to watch. He change of pace, he irritates batters. Is it something I'm overthinking, overanalyzing? Because I'm trying to find everything that I possibly can when I watch this team. But when I watch the bullpen, I just don't have the faith outside of Hader right now that they're going to shut it down and get it to the end of the game.
No, I'm with you in terms of your concerns. That's the one kind of question mark I think that's on the team. There's no bridge. Right now, there's not a real bridge between starting pitching, the great starting pitching that they've been getting, to Josh Hader. And the fact that Devin Williams is not Devin Williams of 2020, I think everyone kind of had the idea that there would be some sort of adjustment, right? The fact that he was hurt and he hadn't really thrown much in spring training. I think everyone kind of was like a little bit leery of where he would be. I think he's going to be fine.
Okay.
I think Devin Williams would be fine. Personally, I don't think he looks like himself right now. The concern comes in for me when I watch him yank fastball after fastball to the left-handed hitter's batter's box, and then also doing the same thing on changeup. So that means he's not really staying in his delivery. He's really pulling off, trying to add a little bit. So he's just out of sync. He's just not himself yet. And then that'll snowball on you, especially you get off to a slow start and all of a sudden you think you have to put up zeros your next 7 outings in a row. That clearly doesn't work, right? To think that way. So I don't know if he's thinking that way. I just know that if he gets that changeup right, if he gets that feel for it of getting through that thing, I think he'll be. And it was almost like the fact that Sogard hit it right in Wrigley, that one game where he hit that triple. It was almost like that's the one that kind of like, because he was throwing some nasty ones in spring. So I'm just wondering, like, if that created a little bit of doubt in his mind right through release as he's, getting through the ball right there on his changeup. I don't know. He'll find it again, but until then, I think Brad Boxberger is going to have to kind of be that guy in the 8th inning, which that guy's actually pretty encouraging. When I saw him,
he's been great. He's been great.
Yeah, I saw him scouting in 2019. He was 88 to 90. I was like, this guy needs to go pitch in AAA. And I mean, it was like he was getting tattooed everywhere, all over the ballpark. And it was straight as a string. There was no deception. But now it's like 94, 96. Where is this coming from? With a good hard slider that's kind of like a 12-6 little short slider. Decent changeup. He's got a cutter in there. Like, it's a real bullpen guy all of a sudden. And he's got that deceptive carry on the fastball through the zone, through the top of the zone. So I think that was just one mistake, honestly, that Brian Reynolds is a good hitter, and he got on top of it, got through, and that ball was where Prince Fielder used to hit balls that he hit the other day, the second deck there. But so I think he's actually pretty encouraging. If you can get Angel Perdomo to throw strikes with his fastball to set up that slider, I think he's going to be a piece that the Brewers could use. Fireheisen's been a huge addition. I just think he's probably like a year away from being like an 8th inning guy or something, he'll get the opportunity to be like 7th, 8th inning guy in leverage situations. We saw last night, and he was fine. So I think there's just going to be some, learning curve along the way, but I love the stuff that I see out of him. But I agree with you a little bit in terms of like, it's not like the Rays bullpen or anything, right? With like 4 guys that are just wipe out. Just no one's going to touch them. They're just going to punch everybody out. I will say this, Stearns, coming into almost every year, Stearns seems to be the conversation. Oh, we just have Josh Hader back there, but all of a sudden, like, guys kind of emerge, right? I know the Brewers had Knebel and Burns for a couple of years there, but I'm sorry, not Burns, Knebel and Hader.
Well, Burns came out. He did. You were right though. In the 2018 playoffs, he was coming out of the bullpen.
Yeah, but I meant Hader, but yeah. So it's a little bit of a concern for me, but maybe some guys will emerge. I guess the only caveat to that is maybe they won't, is that the fact that they're young, that there's not a ton of experience down there besides Boxberger. So that is a little bit of just kind of raises your eyebrows a little bit, but guys get thrown in there and they'll get the job done for the most part, probably. But I'm with you though.
So speaking of JP Fireeisen, he's a Wisconsin guy. He's also from River Falls. I got to ask you, and I know I kept you over the time that I told
That's
you
all
I
right.
was going to keep you, and I appreciate
No, I
it.
enjoy it.
So you're born and raised in Racine, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I got to ask you, I mean, growing up, obviously your team was the Brewers, right? Had to have been,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Oh yeah.
So that's a dream come true, I would assume. So what's your favorite Brewers memory that you can think of? Is it just getting that uniform on? Is it, playing at then Miller Park? I mean, there's got to be some kind of awesome feeling that I can't even put into words right now because I have no idea what it would feel like to play for your hometown team. So like kind of elaborate a little bit on that. Playing for your favorite team. What's your favorite kind of memory? Maybe something that sticks out in your head a little bit.
Yeah, so good question. It's far and away when I got my first at bat is kind of the memory that I'll never forget. It just jumps out at me when someone asks me this question. I mean, I did get a walk-off game-winning hit to secure a winning season for the Brewers in 2007. But that was super cool. That was a really cool memory. The team comes out, rips my jersey off, stuff like that. but to get called up for my hometown team after being non-drafted, a kid that went to UW lacrosse, Division III baseball, grinded, scraped, clawed, whatever I had to do to get a chance to even just put on a uniform, a professional baseball uniform, and then become minor league player of the year in 2004 after a really good season with the Beloit Snappers, and then get called up in 2006 September. And getting that first at bat. So that's all, like all that, the whole story, like it's really cool, and I'm really proud of it, really. And but the memory that really stands out is the at bat. The at bat was like runner on first base with that entire backstory as a reference point, right? Think about that.
Okay.
Runner on first base, 2 outs, bottom of the ninth. Ned Yost says you're going to hit if Jeff Cirillo gets on base. So there's no one on base, and there's 2 outs actually. Jeff Cirillo gets a base hit. I'm like, I'm going to get this done. That's what I was thinking to myself. And then all of a sudden, they actually announced my name. Now batting I was actually number 8 before Braun. Number 8, Vinny Rottino, and then 45,000 fans, sellout crowd. Brewers were still in it for the playoffs at the beginning of September. It started like getting on. It was a standing over. Like everyone was on their feet.
Oh man, I can't even imagine.
I couldn't. I'm telling you, I had to remind myself how to walk to the plate, like left, right, left, front.
I can only imagine.
Fall on my face. It's like, just don't fall is kind of what I was thinking. But anyway, I still, as much adrenaline was pumping through my veins at that time, and how nervous I was, I still thought I was going to get it done. I was swinging a hot bat in AAA. Ended up punching out. Took a called third strike that was just off the plate, way too close to take. But as as unfortunate as how that ended up, I still wouldn't trade it for anything. It was such a cool memory and cool experience. So that was it.
That's absolutely awesome. And I know, I can only imagine, I get goosebumps walking into the crowd, even in a big game, and even on Saturday when there was only 11,000 or whatever there. Just, I can only imagine from your point of view. Vinny, I appreciate, the time. It's been phenomenal for you to take the time out of your busy schedule to talk to me. I greatly appreciate it. Guys, I promise you, go on Twitter, follow him at Vinny Rottino. He will give you all the inside info that you need. I read his scouting report on Chris Paddock this morning or this afternoon. So I got a bunch of stuff to look forward to watching that game tonight. If you see him at AmFam, maybe he wants me to tell you this, maybe he doesn't. Say hi to him.
Yeah, definitely. Come on down. No, seriously. Heckle me.
just don't heckle him like Tim likes to heckle him.
That was so great. Follow Tim Dillard. Appreciate the shout out, Brandon. And please follow me, but also follow at Dim Tillard.
Yeah,
it's hilarious.
He's a character, that's for sure. Vinny, I appreciate it. I hope maybe in the near future I can get you back on. We can break some more awesome Brewer stuff down, and hope to see you at the ballpark again. And thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. No, anytime. And look forward to coming back on. Thanks,
awesome.
Brandon.
Have a good night, sir.
You too. Bye-bye.
That's Vinny Rottino, ladies and gentlemen. That was absolutely awesome. He takes you into a in-depth look into exactly what he sees. Again, that he used to play the game. He was a professional baseball player. He was on that 2008 Brewers run when the CC Sabathia, Prince Fielder, he was on that team, and it was really awesome to get to talk to him. And a lot of things I kind of agree with him. This is a 90-win Brewers team. This is the best starting pitching that we've probably ever seen. This is the highest ceiling right now that I can remember for a Brewers team in really quite some time. You look back at that 2018 team, there was a lot of unknowns. We didn't know Yelich was going to be an MVP. We didn't know how Lorenzo Cain was going to pan out. We knew of him, but we know these guys now. We know Jackie Bradley Jr. is a Gold Glove winner. Colton Wong hits 280 career, a Gold Glove winner. Now you're looking at the bullpen putting together a big run, a big stretch of games here where absolutely dominating. I mean, if you tuned in last night, the Brewers win. Big one, big game, in my opinion. The first game out west, always a tough one. The time change, the atmosphere, the weather, and they win 3-1. Couple solo shots. Urias, Tyrone Taylor. I believe there was one more. Can't think of it off the top of my head, but Brewers win 3-1. Big win last night. So it was awesome to get Vinny Rottino's perspective on the Brewers season thus far. Again, it's really early, but hey, you're setting the tone in the division. You beat the Cubs, you beat the Cardinals, then you beat the Cubs again. And for whatever reason, I don't understand why, but continue to struggle against Pittsburgh Pirates. You dropped 2 out of 3, but that's okay. Brewers off actually in about a half hour, first pitch out in San Diego. So we're going to kind of transition over to the Bucks, but first off, from our sponsors at One Call Tech, guys, if you're paying too much for your cable bill, I highly recommend you head over to One Call's website, www.onecalltech.com, or give them a call at 888-585-8850 and tell them Brandon from the Brew City Lounge sent you. I promise you, they have like 100 years of experience, small business. They will take care of you. They are absolutely awesome people. Adam and the guys over there, they do wonderful work. So we're going to transition over to the Milwaukee Bucks. And if I haven't said it on Twitter, again, follow me on Twitter at Wisco_Brandon. You can follow the podcast page at Brew City Pod. Also jump on Facebook, hit us up over there. That Bucks game last night. Oh man, that Bucks game last night. I had to go and try to get a new phone today. And it's not one of my proudest moments, but I'm just being honest. I get so invested in these games. I get so animated and I understand that it's a regular season game. I understand that we're a month away from the playoffs. I understand that a win or loss here or there is not going to make or break the season. But last night really bothered me not because they lost. Obviously, yeah, I wanted them to win, but it more so that the NBA has a real problem. And I love the NBA, and I'm a diehard Bucks fans. And those of you that know me or follow me on Twitter, you guys know that I love the Milwaukee Bucks. I absolutely love Giannis. He's probably my favorite athlete that I've ever watched or I've ever cheered for. But that Bucks game last night was very frustrating. And again, playing a really good Phoenix Suns team at home at the Pfizer. You got a 7-point lead in the fourth quarter. I think there was 3 minutes left, maybe a little bit more. And you couldn't buy a bucket. I know at the 3:15 mark, and I specifically know that time because I wrote it down, Marcus Johnson makes a comment, Bucks struggling to get a bucket. And then the Suns go right down. They get an easy lay-in, a floater into the paint, and then a corner three. And I don't know how many more. I don't know about you guys. I don't know how many more corner threes I can watch go down before I go to the Pfizer Forum and play defense and just sit in the corner. I don't understand the offense. I don't understand the defensive philosophy of Mike Budenholzer. I just don't get it. They just seem to not be able to close games out. And we're going to get to that foul call. That's a whole nother segment. But I want to break down just this Bucks team from what I saw last night and kind of going forward. And hopefully Giannis's cramps are okay. I believe it was reported by Eric Name of The Athletic that it was just cramps and it was nothing too serious. But when you're up by 7 at home, now I know it's not a sellout crowd on a Saturday night. You got about 2,000 fans there or so. You're up 7 at home. You have the best player, arguably, in the NBA, a really good point guard. And whatever you guys want to say about Chris Middleton, he's still a really good player. I know everybody wants Bradley Beal and Damian Lillard, but that's not going to happen. And I love Chris Middleton. We'll get to that Chris Middleton as well. But this team seems to struggle offensively late in games. And what I mean by that is not just missing shots. Obviously, they struggled last night at making shots. They seem to struggle at the offensive sets that they're running, whatever it is they're running. Why is Giannis bringing up the ball? Why is Chris Middleton bringing up the ball? Why is Dante DiVincenzo bringing up the ball? You just gave Drew Holiday $160 million. Now, maybe, I don't know, maybe the backstory, maybe Drew Holiday doesn't want to bring the ball up. I don't know. But when I'm watching that game and I'm seeing these guys, Giannis at the end of the game, I think it was the end of regulation, sitting with the ball at the top of the key and just dribbling it. What are we doing? You know what they're going to do. That defender's going to drop back and somebody's sliding over and they're going to cause a wall, and it's going to cause a contested shot. Maybe you get to the line, and we know as Bucks fans, Giannis doesn't get to the line the amount of times that he should. We know that. I don't understand at the end of games why the offense becomes so stale. I mean, if Chris Middleton is not bailing people out with hitting shots, by the way, last night for the Chris Middleton haters, Suns 114, Bucks 113, 44 seconds left. Chris Middleton hits a 3. Goes to overtime. Suns 124, Bucks 122. Chris Middleton hits a 3. Fast forward 22 seconds left. Suns 127, Bucks are down 124, down 3 points. Chris Middleton hits a 3. So if he's not bailing them out at the end of these games, and I believe 2 of these shots were really highly contested shots. One of them, he was wide open. But it seems like there's a lack of offensive gel, fluidity. There's a lack of something with the end of these games. I'm not questioning Mike Budenholzer and what he runs. He's obviously a professional basketball coach. I'm not going to sit here in my basement and tell Mike Budenholzer what he should do or what I think he should do. It just seems from a fan perspective, it just seems like they're missing something. Like there's something at the end of games that are Giannis is bringing up the ball. Or why? Drew Holiday's one of the best point guards in the NBA. You just gave him all that money for a reason. Why is Giannis bringing up the ball? Why is Dante DiVincenzo bringing up the ball? Especially late in games. I want that ball in Drew Holiday's hands. I want Drew Holiday bringing that ball down, initiating the play, and running the freaking play. I mean, am I crazy? Is that a crazy thought? Is that crazy? Is that wrong? There's people out there that have a higher NBA IQ than me, and I could be wrong. But I've watched a lot of NBA, played a lot of basketball. I don't understand what Bud is doing late in games with his offense. And honestly, it's more or less his half-court offense. It's very stale. If Giannis isn't penetrating and kicking or scoring, it just kind of seems to be a very hot and cold offense. And it's going to have to change. Something's going to have to change. The playoffs are all half court offenses. Everybody knows that. What are you going to do come playoffs? What are you going to do when it's going to come down to 3 people on Giannis, 2 people on Giannis? He's double teamed, triple teamed. Set the pick and roll with Drew and Giannis. Giannis and Chris, like, defenses aren't going to stop it on a consistent basis. I don't know why we need to discuss this. This is something that honestly should be doing every game, especially at the end of games when you're trying to either draw a foul or get a bucket or even cause some kind of. There was a point where they went 2 possessions without getting a shot off. I don't know. I think it's unacceptable with the talent on this team, the shot makers on this team, playmakers on this team, that we struggle offensively at the end of games. And again, Bucks had a 7-point lead, 3.5 minutes left at home. I want to get your guys' thoughts on this Bucks team and where they're going forward. What are your thoughts? Because I can't get a read on them. Drop me a message out on the live feed. Hit me up on Twitter at Wisco_Brandon. Hit the Twitter page at Brew City Pod. Also drop us a like and a follow on Facebook at Brew City Lounge. I just don't know what to make of this Bucks team. I'm just so confused. And I want to kind of get your thoughts. You can kind of help me out. Maybe like a group therapy lesson here, because I really don't know what to make of them. I don't know who they are. I don't know what their identity is. I know they got a top 10 offense and defense. I think they're like one of only 3 NBA teams. But there's got to be something that gives. And what's it going to be? You're going to get bounced in the first round because that's not an impossible thing. I mean, that very well can happen, especially if you draw Miami or Boston in the first round. And both of those teams are right there in that seeding. Miami's 7, Boston's 5. I mean, there's a possibility. The Knicks and the Celtics are neck and neck right now. Same record. Knicks own the Celtics own the tiebreaker. Miami Heat are only a game out of that 6th spot. So you could very well have an NBA playoff run if you were to go this far, of Miami in the first round, Philly in the second, Brooklyn in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then probably the Lakers. I mean, that's a daunting gauntlet of NBA playoffs. I mean, it's not going to happen. I mean, unless the Bucks go on some ridiculous run, I just can't see them getting through all of those teams. Quite frankly, I can't see them as of right now getting through 2 of those. I would not be surprised the one bit if you got bounced by Miami, maybe Boston in the first round. I mean, this is, as a Bucks fan, this is what we've always wanted. We've always wanted a superstar. And now we got our own. We didn't go out in free agency and get him. We didn't pull him off of the Lakers or the Knicks or Chicago and sign him to a big free agent deal. We drafted this guy out of Greece. This is our own. Giannis is ours. And if you're a Bucks fan, if you're a fan of Milwaukee sports, Giannis he's like family that you just don't know, but he's family. And you'll do anything to defend him. This is everything that we've wanted. And I just don't know what to make of this team. And quite frankly, if I can't get a title since the 2018, 2019 run, the bubble run last year, maybe not this year. I mean, when is it going to hit? You're not going to have Giannis for 20 years. I mean, maybe you do. The wear and tear on his body is unmatched. Guy goes to war every game. Is this big 3 enough to compete? Or do you see them? Say they draw Miami. Say they draw these guys. Do you see this Bucks team getting out of the first round, getting out of the second, getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, getting into the Eastern Conference Finals, winning the Eastern Conference Finals, going to the finals and small market Milwaukee against probably big market LA? I don't know if there's anybody out west with Jamal Murray going down and Donovan Mitchell's banged up that can compete. Obviously, the Lakers will probably be healthy come playoff time. I just don't know. I don't know. And it's frustrating as a fan to have that reaction, because you saw LeBron in the Eastern Conference Finals for all those years, and you just dominated. You walked to the finals backwards. And then you watch guys like KD, Kyrie, now James Harden, Jimmy Butler, Jason Tatum is a rising star. And you see these guys into the Eastern Conference Finals, and now you're looking at the Bucks like, man, 2018, 2019 is really going to hurt 5-10 years from now. That was your chance. Not saying that they don't have a chance now. And I know there's a lot of national writers who are high on the Bucks who say the East is wide open. I don't know. Is the Bucks big three good enough to compete with Brooklyn, with Philly? Say what you want about Philly. Joel Embiid's averaging almost 30. Ben Simmons is at 15. And Tobias Harris is at 25 a game. Not to mention, they're coached up by Doc Rivers. We know he blows leads and he's not particularly stellar in the playoffs, but he's a damn good coach. So are you worried about Philly being able to put our big three against their big three? I don't need to talk about Brooklyn. I think we all kind of know whose big three is better. But as a Bucks fan, it's troubling. It's troubling. You got Giannis, who's averaging 28.5 points a game. He's averaging 11 rebounds. You got Drew Holiday at 17.4 points per game. Got 5.5 assists per game. And Chris Middleton's right there, over 20 points a game. 6 rebounds a game, 5 assists a game. I mean, these are good numbers. All three of these guys. This is probably the best team that the Bucks have put around Giannis in quite some time. But that's what's frustrating. Is this enough to compete with the likes of Brooklyn, maybe Philly, maybe even Miami? Hell, you could even argue Boston right now. They're on a run. I don't know if they won last night, but I'm pretty sure they're at 7-8 wins in a row. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, they are on an absolute tear. And the Bucks are going to have to go through. I'm sorry, Boston lost yesterday. Okay. So they're 7-1 in their last 8. So they're hitting the right time. They're hitting fire at the right time. Miami's catching a little bit of fire. They won last night big. I know they played Houston, but they won big. So what's your guys' thoughts on the Bucks? I mean, are you as confused as I am about this team? Because I'm just really unsure. You turn on a game one day and they win by 50. Yeah, out on the road against Portland. And then there's times where you turn on the game and the whole team's sitting out. Or like last night. And absolutely all the credit to Phoenix. That a team is really good. They're fun to watch. I have all the respect in the world for Phoenix. But like, where does this Bucks team sit with everybody? Did they even beat Phoenix's, I guess, quote unquote, big three? Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton. What Chris Middleton are we going to get? Is Giannis going to be healthy? This team seems to have a lot more questions around their big three than it does on the other teams that I've mentioned before. And again, if you're just joining the podcast or you're just tuning in, I'm comparing the Bucks big three to the rest of the league and the competing teams: Brooklyn, Philly, Miami, Boston, LA. Is this Bucks big three on the level of those? And a lot of you guys will probably sit there and be like, well, wow, of course they are. Are they? On paper, yes. Giannis is a 2-time MVP and the Defensive Player of the Year. Yes, on paper, they should be. What Chris Middleton are we getting? Are we getting a healthy Giannis? We haven't seen Drew Holiday on this team in the playoffs yet. We know what we can expect from him. We know what kind of player he is. But when it comes down to the playoff basketball is totally different. And anybody that is a fan of the NBA, anybody that's watched the NBA for more than a day knows that. It's a different type of game. It slows down. It's more physical. So it begs to ask the question. And again, hit us up on Twitter at Brew City Pod. Hit me up on Twitter at Wisco_Brandon. I really want to know what your guys' thoughts are with this Bucks team, because I'm confused and I was really mad last night. And I'm going to get into why I was really mad in just a second. And we're going to end on that note, because then I'll get re-mad and then I'll ruin my night again. And we got a comment dropping in. Brother-in-law Sean says we don't have enough to beat the Nets. And at this point, it's hard to argue with him. It's hard to really argue with what his statement is saying, because KD, Kyrie, and James Harden, although they're nuts, KD's probably the most thin-skinned pro athlete I've ever seen. Kyrie Irving is absolutely, you never know what to expect. And James Harden is James Harden, but he's the MVP. And obviously KD's the MVP and a finals MVP and a champion. And so is Kyrie. So he's right. Like, they don't have enough right now that we have seen to beat the likes of Brooklyn. Now, again, playoff basketball is different. What we're seeing now with this Bucks team, they might just be pedaling in the water and just waiting for the playoffs. And if they're set with the 3 seed, then they're set with the 3 seed. But it's a good question to ask, because it's a question that we're eventually going to get the answer to. We're eventually going to see these guys go up against Miami or Boston, maybe the Knicks. But that second round, you're going to get Philly or Brooklyn. And then you get past there, you're getting the Eastern Conference Finals, and you're getting Brooklyn or Philly. And then if you, by God, get through the Eastern Conference Finals, well, then you have a date with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And then that's a whole nother argument. But I want to get to last night. We're going to end on an angry note, I guess, tonight. Because I'm watching this game last night. Rest in peace to my iPhone. And back and forth. One of the best basketball games I've watched in a very long time. All the stars played. Nobody was resting. Nobody was hurt. Quote unquote hurt. I mean, there's 2 teams going back and forth. Chris Paul coming down, boom, nails a 15-footer. Drew Holiday coming back down the other side, backing him in, nails a floater. I mean, back and forth, back and forth. I mean, they were just swinging for each other at the end of that game. And then Bucks had a chance at the end of the game to win the game. Giannis has the ball. He slips. At pretty much the end of it, there was, I think, like a couple seconds left, but it didn't matter. They didn't get off a really good looking shot. Devin Booker had a chance to win it as well. He misses it. So 2 good teams. I mean, the Phoenix is number 2 seed, I believe, out west, and you got the Bucks as a 3 seed. I mean, 2 really good teams at a marquee matchup at a marquee time, going at it, absolutely going at it. 2 really good coaches, superstars all over on both sides. Absolutely phenomenal game. And then you get to the overtime. Again, back and forth. Bucks get down by 6. Pat Connaughton nails a 3. PJ Tucker nails a 3. Bucks tie it up. And keep in mind, these guys are going at it. There was a play that I vividly remember. Dante DiVincenzo gets pushed down in the paint and there's no call. Okay, that's fine. We're going to play like that. Let's play like that. That's absolutely fine with me. And then you got Devin Booker, 20 seconds left on the clock. Drew Holiday has literally put his clamps on him, shut him down going into these final seconds. Just shut him down. And then you bail him out, Devin Booker, that is, with a call like that. And I'm not just speaking as a Bucks fan. I'm speaking as a fan of the game, as a fan of the NBA. Why are we letting referees dictate who comes out and wins these games? Why? I mean, Monty Williams was quoted after the game. He heard a quote unquote slap. No, you didn't. Monty Williams, I have a lot of respect for you. You didn't hear nobody get slapped. He grazed his elbow and enough to, first off, Devin Booker didn't even get the shot off in time. So that's number one. Shot, even if he doesn't graze his elbow, Devin Booker's shot doesn't count. It doesn't even matter. But you call a foul at 0.3 seconds on the clock because of what? This is basketball. Like, this is where the NBA has a problem. And they got a few other problems. Do not let referees at the end of the game, especially with two really good teams, the number 2 seed out west and the number 3 seed in the east, going at it back and forth, overtime, looking like it's going into double overtime, and then call a phantom foul because you just think that there was a foul there. Because why? Because that's where the NBA is going. That's why. There's always a foul on some play, and you can point the finger at who to blame. I know who to blame. We won't get into that. But the NBA has a serious problem, and it's a problem throughout, for the most part, professional sports. But the NBA has gotten really bad. I mean, the NBA's got bad that they had to put in an anti-flopping rule. They fine players for flopping during a game. I mean, that's when you know that the NBA has an issue. And what's the incentive with these referees? They get graded. I mean, thanks to Mark Cuban, these guys are graded on a scale throughout the whole year, and it dictates pay raises, and it dictates being a referee in the playoffs and in the finals. And I don't know who made the call last night. I don't wish harm. I don't wish that they lose their job or that they don't get promoted or any of that stuff. But you cannot let a game like that be decided with a call that wasn't even, it wasn't even a blatant foul. You had to slow the camera down to the slowest speed you could possibly get to, zoom in to the closest angle that you could get to see that he may or may not have grazed his elbow. With two teams fighting for seeding, two teams fighting for position in the playoffs, you let a foul, you let a call because it was a jump shooter, you let that dictate the end of the game. And that's wrong. You're robbing the fans. You're robbing the game. You're robbing the players. And it's not a fun product to watch. And the NBA has got to watch itself. They are on a collision course going forward because it's getting ridiculous. And it's not the only game that's been ruined by finals. And if you popped on Twitter yesterday, you saw every major beat writer, Mark Spears, Shams, Legion Hoops, Hoop Central, all these people tweeting out like, man, best game of the NBA, and it was ruined by a foul call at the end. And you just don't want to see it. And I'm a Bucks fan, and I was mad. And my iPhone caught the worst of it. But it's a problem league-wide. We don't want these games. If I was a Phoenix Suns fan, or say I was a Bucks fan and the calls were the other way around, I would be upset. I want to beat you guys the right way. I want to play the right way. I want to win the right way. But that's my therapy with that, because I needed to talk about that today. And I'm glad I waited till the end of the show to talk about it, because now it's out of my system. I can breathe a little bit. I can get ready to watch these Brewers. First pitch in about 10 minutes. Bucks are off until Thursday, I believe, and that's another big series coming. I shouldn't say series, but it's a home and home against Philly. So they play Thursday at the Fiserv against Philly, and then also Saturday against Philly. So you have an opportunity to really grab a hold of either that second seed or take a spot in, take a chip away at that number 1 seed. The Bucks are 4 games out of the number 1 seed, and they're 3 out of the second seed. So there's a lot of seeding, a lot of games to be decided yet. We're going to be here. I'm going to be here on the Brew City Lounge, breaking it all down, with you. I'm going to be mad with you. We're going to celebrate together. We're going to be angry together. We're going to do it together. I appreciate your support. I appreciate the on social media. If you see me walking around, thank you. Appreciate you guys giving me an opportunity to break down the Bucks and the Brewers. We'll hopefully celebrate one day together. If you're not on the live stream, that's okay. Do not forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon. There's like 7 others. I don't know. Wherever you get your podcasts, you can go ahead and download all the shows, subscribe, follow, leave a review. Please let me know what you would like to see in the show, what maybe you want me to talk about a little bit more. I will take all the reviews in and I will read through them, and I greatly appreciate the feedback. If you're on social media, I highly recommend you following us on Twitter at Brew City Pod or on Facebook at Brew City Lounge. I am your host, Brandon. Follow me on Twitter at Wisco_Brandon. I will see you guys again on Friday. I don't know who the guest is yet. I'm still working a few things out, so stay tuned for that. Shout out to Vinny Rottino for joining the show. That was awesome. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, follow me on Twitter, and let's go Brewers. About 10 minutes, first pitch, and we'll see you on Friday, and we'll break down the Bucks and the 76ers. Have a great night.